I'm going to turn things over to Ruth Watkins. Ruth is the president of Postsecondary Education at Strada Education Foundation. She served as president of University of Utah from 2018 to 2021 before joining Strada. She has both a master's and a PhD in child language and speech pathology. And at Strada, she leads the organization's national research, philanthropy, policy, and thought leadership efforts to drive change in the education workforce system and empower millions more learners to improve their lives and career. And Ruth is going to be joined by Lisa Gevelber. Lisa is the founder of Grow with Google, an online resource for training and tools to help people grow their skills, careers, or businesses. And one of her most significant contributions is the creation of Google Career Certificates, which provide people access to on-demand, well-paying jobs, regardless of educational background or work experience. And over 300,000 people globally have received a Google Career Certificate from this program. So we're really excited for this conversation. So please welcome Ruth and Lisa for our fireside chat.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be with you. I'm Ruth Watkins. Lisa, you are one of the leaders in our nation in industry-led credentials with the aim of equitable pathways to opportunity. What remarkable work. Give the audience a little bit of a sense of a couple of your top insights from doing this work over the past several years.
Good morning, everyone. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Google Career Certificate Program, really what we're doing at Google is training and certifying people for in-demand, high-paying jobs, regardless of their prior work experience or level of academic achievement. And we've been doing this for a handful of years, and we've learned a few things along the way. A bunch of things actually surprised us, so maybe I'll start with those. Our original intention was around a single goal, which was to help us solve an important societal problem, that almost 80% of jobs in our country that pay more than $35,000 a year require a degree, or say they require a degree, but only a third of Americans have one. And so we were really focused on how do we help people without degrees get trained for high-paying, high-growth jobs. But our first insight, our first surprise, was that not only were we doing that successfully, but that a lot of our graduates, almost 40% of them, actually had degrees, and they were still doing the Google Career Certificate. And what we learned along the way is that they were behaving quite rationally. If you complement a bachelor's degree with a high-quality credential, you can actually become dramatically more employable at higher wages, and maybe we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the first insight was, wow, we're not just helping people without a degree, we're really also helping people with a degree. The second insight, which was really interesting, is we created an employer consortium for people to hire our graduates, and we have over 150 big national employers who hire our graduates. But we were so focused on hiring that we actually missed an important need that employers have, which is upskilling and reskilling. You may all know that it costs about 7 times more to hire someone than it does to upskill your own person. So we really learned along the way that one of the most important needs employers have is just reskilling or upskilling their current employees. And now we have employers like Ford and Salesforce and Wells Fargo using the Google certificates to upskill their folks. And then the third thing is, once we started focusing on higher education, is that we discovered we were very focused on credit bearing. How do we get higher ed to give credit? And we discovered that is not always the model that's most important or going to work for everyone. And so now we have about 6 different ways that we work with universities, and we're less obsessed with making sure that people get credit.
Thanks, Lisa. So you've pointed out millions of unfilled jobs, at the same time, underemployed individuals and unemployed individuals that don't have the skills they need. We also know that when there are many, many jobs, they're not always good jobs. What do you know about Google Career Certificates leading to good jobs, economic mobility, and middle-income wages?
Yeah, our number one goal actually is economic mobility. And so when we created the certificate program and we were choosing which fields to pick, we deliberately chose the most in-demand, growing professions that pay well. So we teach 5 career fields: data analytics, IT support, UX design, project management, and e-commerce digital marketing. And the median entry-level wage for those jobs is $72,000 a year, which is an outstanding entry-level pay. And we really focused on where there are big skills gaps, because if we can find places where employers can't find enough people, those will inherently be good-paying jobs as well. So about 74% of our graduates say that within 6 months of completing the certificate, they were able to get a really positive career outcome: a new job, a raise, a promotion.
Very impressive. I have to say, for a person who's spent a career in higher education, it's a painful thing to look at some of the data on underemployment of college graduates. I think I really had no idea that how important that first job is for people and their longer-term trajectory, and how many of our students are not finding their way to a college-level first job. You are framing a conversation that's quite different. It's not certificate or degree, but it can be certificate and degree, a both and dialogue. So expand a little bit on that, Lisa, about how you're going at that work and the various ways you're approaching that problem. What we would love is that no one leaves college without a college-level job, and also that, in particular, we create more equitable pathways to opportunity through work like the Google Career Certificates.
Yeah, it's a surprising fact. Actually, I have 2 college student children. About 41% of people who are graduating with a bachelor's degree today are ending up in a job that doesn't require a degree. So to your point, Ruth, they're underemployed. So we've been working with higher ed institutions, and like I said, we started thinking the main way was all going to be about credit bearing, but we've found that there are about 6 different ways that we're working with colleges and universities. Some are offering it for credit, building it right into their coursework. Some of them are offering credit for prior learning, which is kind of like sort of like AP credit, where you can do the Google Career Certificate, and then because all of our certificates are ACE recognized for credit, you can gain college credit for having done the certificate. Some schools are offering it as an extracurricular or non-credit offering. Some schools are really interested in helping the community or their alumni, so UCLA is offering it through their extension program to the community. Rutgers offers our certificates to their alumni. Any alumni can do it for free through Rutgers. And then, many of these schools are also building little micro-credentials around it. So they'll offer the Google Career Certificate, they'll complement it with a few courses, like maybe a management course, and make their own little badge so you can dual credential. And then we're really excited that some of the higher ed institutions have decided to build companion certificates to our certificate. So for example, we built a data analytics certificate, and the University of Michigan built an industry specialization, where after you've taken the Google cert, you could do the Michigan cert for data analytics in the public sector. Or the University of Illinois also built a companion cert for financial analyst. So it's really, we call it Build on Top, and we're seeing tons of universities who are interested in bringing, which is amazing to me, their world-class faculty to build certificates that complement this work.
It's really kind of an amazing change that I'm watching in higher ed, and I'm thrilled that Google Career Certificates are such an important part of that. Let's talk about the trailblazers at the University of Texas system. They have a great tagline: broadly educated and specifically skilled. They're working very closely with you, and love to hear more about that.
I really love what Texas is doing. We all know Texas is big. I think it's the 9th largest economy in the world, and their higher ed system, I believe, is like the 3rd largest in the country. And Dr. Harrison Keller, who's the commissioner of higher ed, is a really big thinker. And he's helped Texas set a goal of having 60% of Texans earn a credential of value, which could be a degree or a high-quality industry-recognized certificate or credential like ours. And so we did a partnership. We just announced this actually in December of last year where the entire University of Texas system and the Texas State University system are offering the Google Career Certificates to all of their students, which we're super excited about.
That's great. So let me ask you a question, audience. Got to pay attention for a second here. How many people in this room in one way or another are working with higher education? Either you're in an institution or you're a partner. Okay. Almost, lots, maybe at least 2/3, 3/4. So one of the things that's happening on a national stage in higher education is we are seeing declining enrollment, particularly in community colleges and also in regional four-year institutions. When we have talent needs and workforce needs, this is a very significant concern for our country and our economy as a whole. There is one very significant growth sector in post-secondary education. It's people under 18 earning certificates and early college credit. Quite remarkable. I just point everybody in that direction of taking a look. I'd love to know, Lisa, whether you think there's a role for career certificates at the high school level that may then ultimately both increase readiness for today's employment environment and or participation in post-secondary ed.
Yeah, so we, when we first started the Google Career Certificates, started working with community colleges and then had this idea to work with career and technical high schools, which we've been doing now for several years. We have hundreds of career and technical high schools using the career certificates. But what we're most excited about is the momentum we see with public school systems. So, for example, just not too far from here, in Anaheim, California, they have just shy of 1,000 students taking the Google Career Certificates in part of their classroom learning. So they've gone ahead and taken the career certificate content, built it right in to their curriculum. And then as community colleges and other schools in their area start to recognize the Google Career Certificates either as credit for prior learning, those kids can graduate high school with a career certificate from Google and hopefully at many institutions get college credit for it. So I think what they're doing in Anaheim is tremendous. We're seeing this happen in other public school systems as well, places like Cincinnati. And so I think a lot of states have, as part of the objectives of the Department of Ed, to do college and career readiness in high schools. But I think we're just starting to see the potential of what you can do with career readiness in high schools.
It's great, and I think there is just enormous potential to help support more equitable pathways to opportunity through that kind of work. Now let's take a minute and talk about some of, not everyone is a 100% supporter, although I think that is dialogue that's beginning to change. Sometimes higher ed institutions are not so ready to embrace change. And some of the things that come up are, do these certificates actually lead to durable and evergreen skills, the kind of skills that will last? And do you see evidence of kind of longer range, and what are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when we build our certificates, we look for in-demand, high-growth fields. We use that data to decide what to build. Maybe I'll just use one specific example. So one of our certificates is a certificate in data analytics. And interestingly, we use search data as one of our data sources. And how to become search queries were at an all-time high last year in 2022. And how to become a data analyst was the #1 how to become query in the world last year. And it totally makes sense, because if you look at the other side, the demand side from employers, McKinsey says the greatest skill gap of any skill is not coding, it's data analytics. And the demand for data analytics skills is growing at 15 times the rate of the demand of average of other skills. And so I think the durability of understanding data analysis, how do you do it, how do you visualize it, how do you explain it, how do you make decisions based on data, I think is here to stay, though nothing but more data coming in our world. And so we're really focused on things like data analytics, where we know that that's a durable skill in your terminology that people will need not just today, but in the future.
Yeah. What a great point. I'd also want to ask a little bit about what you're learning about how you and others around you can help students who start stay with a certificate and finish. One of the things we hear, certainly very frequently from working adults that are coming back for a credential or a degree, is that their confidence in their own abilities is weak. They frequently say, I've never been good at school, I don't do well at this. And I think we all need to embrace that part of what needs to happen here is a mindset shift for people to see their potential and to act on it. So I think as you work on ensuring that people who start a credential, a certificate, finish it, are you learning anything about mindset and confidence and more generally about how we help people finish?
I think there's a few pieces to that question. You know, adult learners in particular absolutely have to have something that's on demand that they can do at their own time. More than 20% of Americans don't know their work schedule for the next week, and they certainly don't control their schedules, so they need something they can do when they have bandwidth to do it. But I think there are so many other barriers to finishing these things, and one of them certainly is confidence. Imposter syndrome is real, and one of the things we do, all of our certificates are built, not just the content, but are actually taught by Google experts who work in the particular field they're teaching. So we deliberately choose people of all different backgrounds, and our instructors actually share their personal journeys of how they got to where they are. And I think people can really connect with someone who looks like them, who maybe comes from a background like theirs. And I think it really does help a bit with this concept of imposter syndrome. And then at Google, we're lucky. We also have behavioral scientists. And so we've actually used behavioral science techniques and built them right into the certificate. So there's a phrase called commitment device that behavioral scientists use. And basically, it's about having the person do something up front that really demonstrates their commitment to finishing, and we have a few different ones we've built into the certificate. And then it's also about helping people when they get stuck. And so we've deliberately made our certificates super rigorous because we want people to get economic mobility, so they have to succeed in these jobs when they get them. And so people don't pass the assessments on their first try quite frequently. But one of the behavioral science techniques that we use is we use like social proof. And so we will also tell them, hey, guess what? Most people don't pass this assessment on their first try. We'll make them feel better about it. And then we'll take them directly back to the content in the course that will help review them. We'll say like 62% of people who got stuck on this question reviewed this video. To better understand the content or the concept. And so we'll take them directly back to the place where they can relearn that part. And I think these techniques are super helpful because you got to help people commit at the beginning, and then you really need to help people as they get stuck.
So interesting, because you can see the way your own data analytics are impacting how you're coaching and guiding individuals. Now, is there a human involved in this too, or is it a little bit more technologically driven? How do you actually execute on those things?
Yeah, it's really a mix. Our instructors actually get really popular. People love them, and so I think people definitely feel a connection to people. And as I said, they share their journey along the way. But it is definitely tech-enabled learning.
Very impressive. I think we know that having a coach and a guide makes a very significant difference. And I'm guessing that coach can be better as they themselves have the data that will tell them when a student needs them the most. So let me ask you this, Lisa. As you think about these career certificates, do you see evidence that they're stacking? You touched on this a little bit when you started. Maybe completing one certificate means that people will come back for a second certificate or another learning opportunity. I'd just be curious as to whether it becomes a pathway to more.
Yeah, we've seen a real need for that. I think I mentioned at the beginning that reskilling and upskilling is also really important to employers. And so our top certificate, the #1 certificate on Coursera, is actually the Google Data Analytics Certificate. And I mentioned some of the stats about the real demand from both learners and employers in data analytics. So we actually just like 2 weeks ago launched 2 new data analytics certificates. So now we have the basic, we have the advanced data analytics, and we have a business intelligence specific certificate. So we've made it so that people can stack their way to a more experienced job. And then we're really excited that the University of Michigan and the University of Illinois have built on top of the data analytics certificate to do their industry specializations.
I have to say, when institutions like Michigan and Illinois are adopting your certificate, that has to be a pretty good day.
We're very excited about our higher ed partners, and actually Columbia University, Johns Hopkins University, and ASU have also all built companion certificates for different ones of the Google certificates. So,
yeah. So just a couple quick questions as we wrap up. First, what do you wish you knew that you don't yet have data on that may be coming in the near future?
There's so many things that we're learning along the way. One of the things we're really excited about but have a lot to learn about is what's the best way to do this in a high school environment. So maybe I can learn this from some of you who are here at the conference, but we have some incredible pilots happening, as I said, in Anaheim and Cincinnati and a few other cities, but really figuring out how to dial into the high school opportunity, I think, is a big area of exploration for us.
Yeah, it's great. And I think all of us are working on, and this is true in post-secondary ed of all kinds, we want to help more people finish what they started, get the credential or degree they came for. That's on all of us to continue to get to that quest. So tell us a little bit as we get to the final sort of 45 seconds here. What's next for Google Career Certificates? Are you developing more certificates? What's happening in the future?
Yeah, stay tuned. We actually continue to look at in-demand, high-growth professions, and we've identified some more. We have some more coming out in the future. And we're really interested to see what AI can do in this space. About a year ago, we launched an AI tool for our graduates. It's called the Interview Warm-Up, and it helps people practice their interviewing skills. Because one of the things we realized is not just are we needing to teach people and credential them, but we're trying to help them get to the jobs, which is why we have our employer consortium. But we also help people with resume writing. And through the Interview Warm-Up tool, we're using AI to help them interview better.
I think maybe I need to go to the interview school that you could provide. Hey, thank you, everyone. Join me in thanking Lisa Gevelber.
Thank you.